Most people believe that high achievers are different because they are more talented, more intelligent, or simply luckier than everyone else. They look at extraordinary success and assume there must be something special hidden beneath the surface. They imagine that successful people wake up every morning overflowing with confidence, never questioning themselves, never experiencing fear, never feeling discouraged. But if you examine the lives of people who consistently achieve remarkable results, you discover something surprising. Their greatest advantage is not talent. It is not luck. It is not even opportunity. Their greatest advantage is the way they think. Psychology is the invisible force that determines visible results. Long before success becomes reality, it first becomes a pattern of thought. Every achievement is created twice. It is created mentally before it is created physically. The buildings you admire, the businesses you respect, the inventions that changed history, the books that inspired millions, every one of them began as an idea inside someone's mind. Success always begins where no one else can see it. This is why two people can have the same education, the same resources, and even the same opportunities, yet end up living completely different lives. One sees obstacles. The other sees possibilities. One waits for certainty. The other acts despite uncertainty. One allows temporary failure to define their future. The other treats failure as valuable information. Your psychology shapes your behavior. Your behavior creates your habits. Your habits determine your future. The first psychological characteristic of high achievers is absolute responsibility. They refuse to give control of their lives to circumstances. They understand that while they cannot control every event, they can always control their response. The average person spends an enormous amount of energy explaining why something cannot be done. They blame the economy. They blame their upbringing. They blame their boss. They blame politics. They blame bad timing. Every excuse may contain a small amount of truth, but none of them create progress. High achievers ask a different question. Instead of asking, why did this happen to me? They ask, what can I do now? That single question changes everything. Imagine two entrepreneurs whose businesses fail. One spends years talking about unfair competition and bad luck. The other studies every mistake, learns every lesson, starts another company, and eventually succeeds beyond imagination. The event was identical. The psychology was completely different. Life rewards responsibility because responsibility produces action. Action produces experience. Experience creates wisdom. The second psychological trait is future orientation. Most people live according to their emotions. High achievers live according to their vision. They make decisions today based on where they want to be years from now. When everyone else spends money impulsively, they invest. When everyone else wastes evenings scrolling endlessly, they read, learn, practice, and improve. When everyone else seeks comfort, they seek growth. They constantly ask themselves, will this decision move me closer to the person I want to become? That question acts like a compass. Without a destination, every road seems acceptable. With a clear destination, unnecessary distractions become obvious. The greatest enemy of achievement is not failure, it is distraction. Modern life is designed to steal your attention. Notification compete for your focus. Entertainment competes for your ambition. Comfort competes for your discipline. High achievers understand that attention is one of the most valuable assets they possess. Where attention goes, energy flows. Where energy flows, results appear. They guard their focus with incredible discipline because they know scattered effort creates scattered results. Another powerful psychological principle is delayed gratification. The human brain naturally seeks immediate pleasure. Eat the dessert, buy the expensive item. Skip today's workout. Watch another episode, sleep another hour. All these decisions provide instant comfort. But high achievers train themselves to sacrifice small pleasures for greater rewards. They understand that today's discipline becomes tomorrow's freedom. Every successful investment works this way. Every healthy body works this way. Every thriving career works this way. Every meaningful relationship works this way. The willingness to delay gratification separates those who merely dream from those who consistently achieve. There is another mental habit that transforms ordinary people into extraordinary performers. They become solution-oriented. Average thinkers spend most of their conversations discussing problems. High achievers spend most of their conversations discussing solutions. Problems exist everywhere. They are permanent companions of progress. Every new level of success introduces a new level of challenge. The goal is not to eliminate problems. The goal is to become better at solving them. When difficulties appear, successful people become curious rather than emotional. They ask, what is this problem trying to teach me? That question transforms frustration into education. Every challenge carries valuable information for the person willing to learn. Think about the greatest athletes. They don't avoid difficult opponents, they welcome them. Competition reveals weaknesses that practice alone cannot expose. Life operates the same way. Pressure reveals character. Difficulty reveals preparation. Adversity reveals psychology. One of the most misunderstood aspects of achievement is confidence. People believe confidence comes before action. It rarely does. Confidence grows because of action. A child does not become confident before learning to walk. The child falls repeatedly, gets up repeatedly, falls again, gets up again. Eventually, walking becomes natural. Confidence followed competence. The same process applies to every skill in life: public speaking, leadership, business, sales, writing, investing, printing. You become confident because you repeatedly face discomfort until discomfort loses its power over you. Fear shrinks when action expands. This is why waiting to feel ready is one of the most dangerous psychological traps. You may never feel completely ready. High achievers understand that readiness is created through movement, not through waiting. Another remarkable quality is emotional control. This does not mean successful people never experience fear, disappointment, frustration, or anxiety. It means they refuse to allow temporary emotions to make permanent decisions. Emotions are real, they are important, but they are poor leaders. Imagine making every financial decision while angry, every career decision while discouraged, every relationship decision while frustrated. The consequences would be devastating. High achievers pause before reacting. They create space between stimulus and response. Within that space lies wisdom. Within that space lies self-control. Within that space lies leadership. Another psychological principle is identity. Behavior follows identity far more consistently than motivation. If someone believes they are unhealthy, every healthy habit feels unnatural. If someone believes they are a procrastinator, productive behavior feels temporary. If someone believes they are disciplined, discipline becomes expected. Your identity becomes the operating system for your behavior. Instead of saying, I want to become successful, begin asking, who must I become to deserve the success I seek? That question shifts attention from outcomes to transformation, because lasting success is never simply about achieving more, it is about becoming more. The strongest people you admire did not simply change their circumstances, they changed themselves, they upgraded their thinking, they improved their standards, they elevated their habits. They strengthened their character. Success became a natural consequence. High achievers also possess remarkable resilience. Resilience is not avoiding failure, it is recovering faster from failure. Everyone experiences disappointment. Everyone experiences rejection. Everyone loses opportunities. Everyone makes mistakes. The difference is recovery time. Some people remain emotionally trapped by one setback for years. Others learn the lesson, adjust their strategy, and move forward immediately. Imagine driving toward a destination. If you encounter road construction, you do not abandon the journey. You simply choose another route. Goals deserve the same persistence. The route may change, the destination remains. High achievers refuse to confuse temporary detours with permanent defeat. Gratitude also plays a far greater role than most people realize. A grateful mind performs differently from a resentful mind. Gratitude reduces fear, it increases creativity, it improves relationships, it strengthens optimism, it expands emotional endurance. When you appreciate what you already possess, you stop operating from desperation. Desperation narrows thinking, gratitude expands thinking. People often believe ambition and gratitude cannot exist together. The opposite is true. The healthiest ambition grows from appreciation rather than dissatisfaction. You can appreciate today's progress while still pursuing tomorrow's potential. Another essential characteristic is relentless learning. High achievers never believe they know enough. Every conversation becomes an opportunity to learn. Every book contains potential wisdom. Every mentor offers perspective. Every mistake provides education. The moment someone believes they have nothing left to learn, growth begins to slow. The world changes constantly. Industries evolve. Technology advances. Markets shift. Skills become outdated. The willingness to remain a lifelong student becomes an enormous competitive advantage. Curiosity keeps the mind young. Learning keeps opportunity alive. There is also a fascinating psychological shift regarding comparison. Most people compare themselves to others. High achievers compare themselves to their previous performance. External comparison creates envy. Internal comparison creates improvement. Instead of asking whether they are better than someone else, they ask whether they are better than they were yesterday. That mindset creates continuous progress without unnecessary insecurity. Every day becomes a personal competition. Every improvement becomes meaningful. Every small victory builds momentum. Momentum is one of the most underestimated forces in achievement. Success rarely arrives in one dramatic moment. It grows through countless invisible victories, one completed workout, one finished chapter. One difficult phone call, one courageous decision, one disciplined morning, one extra hour of preparation. Small actions repeated consistently become extraordinary results. People celebrate overnight success without seeing the thousands of ordinary days that made it possible. High achievers respect those ordinary days. They know greatness hides inside routine. The psychology of excellence also includes extraordinary standards. People do not consistently exceed the standards they set for themselves. If your standard is average effort, average results become inevitable. If your standard is excellence, your daily behavior changes automatically. High achievers ask themselves difficult questions. Did I truly give my best today? Could I have prepared better? Did I honor my commitments? Did I use my time wisely? These questions create accountability without requiring someone else to enforce discipline. Self-respect grows every time you keep promises made to yourself. Self-confidence grows every time your actions align with your values. Perhaps the greatest psychological secret of all is purpose. People can endure incredible hardship when they possess a meaningful reason. Purpose transforms effort into fulfillment. Purpose transforms sacrifice into investment. Purpose transforms obstacles into stepping stones. When your vision becomes bigger than your discomfort, persistence becomes possible. The human mind is incredibly powerful. It believes the stories repeated most often. If you constantly tell yourself that life is unfair, your brain searches for evidence supporting that belief. If you repeatedly tell yourself that growth is possible, your brain begins searching for opportunities instead of excuses. Your internal dialogue eventually becomes your external reality. Guard your thoughts carefully because they become your words. Guard your words carefully because they become your actions. Guard your actions carefully because they become your habits. Guard your habits carefully because they become your destiny. Remember that every remarkable achievement in history was once considered impossible by someone, the difference was not intelligence alone. The difference was belief combined with disciplined action. High achievers refuse to surrender their future to temporary emotions, passing opinions, or difficult circumstances. They choose responsibility over excuses, vision over comfort, discipline over convenience, learning over ego, growth over fear, action over hesitation. Every morning they wake up understanding that life will not always be easy, fair, or predictable. Yet they also understand something far more powerful. They understand that their greatest asset is not the economy, not the opinions of others, not favorable conditions, but the incredible capacity of the human mind to adapt, improve, and overcome. That realization changes everything, because once you truly believe that your thinking can be strengthened like a muscle, every challenge becomes an opportunity to grow stronger. Every setback becomes another lesson. Every difficult season becomes preparation for greater responsibility. The psychology of high achievers is not reserved for a gifted few. It is available to anyone willing to master their thoughts, control their habits, strengthen their character, and refuse to quit regardless of the obstacles standing in their way. The moment you decide that your mindset will become your greatest investment, your future begins to change, because the person who consistently wins in life is almost always the person who first learns to win the battles taking place within the mind. One of the most important shifts that occurs in the mind of a high achiever is the transition from wishing to deciding. Wishing is emotional, deciding is transformational. Millions of people wish they were healthier, wealthier, happier, and more successful. They wish they had started earlier. They wish they had more opportunities. They wish circumstances were different. But wishes have no power unless they are followed by decisions backed with consistent action. A decision is a line drawn in the sand. It is the moment when excuses lose their influence and commitment begins to take control. Every extraordinary accomplishment starts with a person who reaches a point where they quietly say to themselves, no matter how difficult this becomes, I will not turn back. This level of commitment changes the psychology of performance because the mind stops searching for escape routes. As long as quitting remains an option, the brain will constantly look for reasons to take it. But when commitment becomes absolute, the brain begins searching for solutions instead. This is why people often surprise themselves. They discover strength they never knew they possessed simply because giving up was no longer acceptable. The human mind has an incredible ability to adapt under pressure. Most people never discover their true potential because they retreat the moment life becomes uncomfortable. High achievers stay in the discomfort long enough for growth to occur. They understand that every new level of competence initially feels awkward. Every new challenge stretches the mind beyond what feels familiar. That uncomfortable feeling is not a warning sign. It is evidence that growth is taking place. Think back to every skill you have ever mastered. At first, it felt impossible. Reading was once difficult. Driving a car seemed overwhelming. Learning a new language appeared confusing. Speaking confidently in front of others may have terrified you. Yet repetition transformed uncertainty into confidence. The same process applies to every meaningful goal you pursue. The only difference is whether you remain committed long enough for your brain to adapt. High achievers also understand something that many people overlook. Motivation is unreliable, discipline is dependable. If you rely entirely on feeling inspired, your progress will always fluctuate. Some mornings you will wake up energized. Other mornings you will feel exhausted, discouraged, or distracted. If emotions determine your actions, your results will always remain inconsistent. The psychology of excellence requires a different approach. It requires building systems that continue functioning even when enthusiasm disappears. Professionals do not wait until they feel like working. They work because it is who they are. Athletes do not train only when they are excited. They train because preparation is part of their identity. Entrepreneurs continue solving problems even during difficult seasons because they understand that consistency matters more than temporary emotion. Imagine building a bridge one brick at a time. If you only place bricks on the days you feel motivated, construction may never finish. But if you place one brick every single day regardless of your mood, eventually a bridge appears. Success works exactly the same way. Daily consistency eventually creates extraordinary outcomes. Another fascinating characteristic of high achievers is that they become intentional about the people they spend time with. Psychology is contagious. Emotions spread, beliefs spread, standards spread, expectations spread. Spend enough time around people who constantly complain, and complaining begins to feel normal. Spend enough time around individuals who pursue excellence, and excellence becomes your new standard. This does not mean rejecting everyone who struggles. Everyone experiences difficult seasons. But it does mean protecting your environment. If you are constantly surrounded by negativity, excuses, and pessimism, your own thinking slowly begins to resemble theirs. The mind absorbs far more than most people realize. Successful people intentionally expose themselves to encouraging ideas. They read biographies of remarkable individuals. They listen to educational material. They seek conversations that challenge them intellectually. They ask thoughtful questions. They surround themselves with people who expect more from life because higher expectations naturally elevate performance. There is another mental habit that separates leaders from followers. High achievers become extremely careful about the language they use. Words influence emotions. Emotions influence behavior. When someone repeatedly says, "I have to," life begins feeling like a burden. When they replace those words with, "I get to," perspective changes completely. I have to exercise, I get to strengthen my body, I have to work, I get to create opportunities, I have to solve this problem. I get to develop another valuable skill. The situation may remain identical, yet the psychological experience becomes completely different. Language directs attention. Attention shapes emotion. Emotion affects performance. This is why successful individuals avoid destructive self-talk. They understand that the person they speak to most often is themselves. Every internal conversation either strengthens confidence or weakens it. Every repeated thought either empowers future action or quietly limits potential. If you constantly tell yourself that you are incapable, your brain eventually accepts that message as truth. If you consistently remind yourself that every skill can be developed through practice, your mind begins searching for ways to improve instead of reasons to quit. Your subconscious does not carefully evaluate every statement you repeat. It simply absorbs patterns. Feed it empowering beliefs consistently, and your behavior gradually aligns with those beliefs. Feed it fear and limitation, and your actions begin reflecting those limitations. The psychology of high achievers also includes extraordinary patience. Modern culture encourages instant gratification. We expect immediate responses, immediate results, immediate recognition, and immediate success. But meaningful achievement rarely follows that schedule. Nature itself teaches patience. A tree does not produce fruit the day after it is planted. It spends years strengthening its roots before anyone notices its growth above the surface. Human achievement follows the same principle. There are seasons when it feels as though nothing is happening. You study every day without immediate improvement. You build your business while profits remain small. You exercise consistently before your body begins transforming. You develop your skills long before the marketplace recognizes your value. Many people quit during this invisible phase because they mistake slow progress for failure. High achievers understand that invisible progress is still progress. They continue planting seeds even when the harvest has not yet appeared. They trust the process because they understand that extraordinary results often emerge after long periods of seemingly ordinary effort. Another powerful psychological advantage comes from preparation. Confidence often grows in direct proportion to preparation. Anxiety usually increases when preparation decreases. Before an important presentation, successful speakers rehearse repeatedly. Before major competitions, athletes practice relentlessly. Before launching new ventures, experienced entrepreneurs gather information, analyze risks, and prepare carefully. Preparation does not eliminate uncertainty, but it dramatically increases confidence because it allows you to enter challenging situations knowing you have done everything within your control. Notice that phrase. Everything within your control. High achievers constantly separate what they can influence from what they cannot. They refuse to waste emotional energy worrying about circumstances beyond their control. They cannot control economic conditions, but they can improve their skills. They cannot control other people's opinions, but they can control their own attitude. They cannot control unexpected setbacks, but they can control how quickly they recover. This habit protects mental energy. Worry drains energy without producing progress. Focus directs energy toward meaningful action. Every day presents hundreds of opportunities to choose where your attention will go. You can spend hours worrying about possibilities that never happen, or you can invest that same energy improving your preparation. One path creates anxiety. The other creates confidence. High achievers are also exceptionally honest with themselves. Self-deception may protect the ego temporarily, but it destroys long-term progress. Honest self-evaluation creates improvement. They ask difficult questions without becoming defensive. Where am I falling short? What skill must I develop next? What habits are holding me back? What truth have I been avoiding? These questions require courage because honest answers are not always comfortable. Yet, growth begins the moment denial ends. Imagine an athlete refusing to watch recordings of poor performances because criticism feels uncomfortable. Improvement would become nearly impossible. In the same way, refusing to examine your weaknesses prevents meaningful development. High achievers understand that criticism, when constructive, is valuable information rather than a personal attack. They separate their identity from their performance. A mistake does not mean they are failures. It simply reveals another opportunity for refinement. This mindset creates remarkable emotional freedom. Instead of fearing mistakes, they welcome feedback. Instead of protecting their ego, they pursue excellence. Instead of pretending to know everything, they remain teachable. One of the greatest psychological strengths is adaptability. The world changes continuously. Industries evolve. Technology advances. Consumer behavior shifts. Unexpected events reshape entire markets. Those who refuse to adapt often become trapped by outdated thinking. High achievers remain flexible without abandoning their values. They willingly change strategies while remaining committed to their purpose. If one method stops producing results, they experiment with another. They do not become emotionally attached to a single approach. Consider water flowing toward the ocean. It does not stop when it encounters a rock. It simply flows around the obstacle while continuing toward its destination. High achievers develop the same flexibility. Obstacles influence their methods, but never their commitment. Another fascinating aspect of achievement psychology is optimism grounded in reality. This is not blind positivity. It is not pretending problems do not exist. It is the confidence that solutions can be found despite difficulties. Real optimism acknowledges obstacles while refusing to surrender because of them. When projects become complicated, optimists ask better questions. What resources do we already have? Who can help? What lesson are we learning? What opportunity might exist inside this challenge? Questions determine focus. Focus determines action. The quality of your life often depends upon the quality of the questions you consistently ask yourself. High achievers rarely ask, why is this happening to me? Instead, they ask, how can I grow from this? That subtle shift transforms adversity into education. There is also tremendous power in visualization. Before major performances, many elite performers mentally rehearse success. They imagine themselves remaining calm under pressure. They picture executing skills with precision. They visualize overcoming unexpected difficulties with confidence. The brain responds remarkably well to vivid mental rehearsal because repeated visualization strengthens belief and reduces uncertainty. While imagination alone cannot replace action, combining visualization with disciplined effort creates powerful psychological preparation. Imagine climbing a mountain. If you repeatedly visualize reaching the summit while consistently taking each necessary step, your determination becomes stronger during difficult moments. But if you constantly imagine failure, every obstacle feels larger than it actually is. The pictures you hold in your mind influence the actions you take with your body. High achievers intentionally create empowering mental images because they understand that expectation influences performance. Another principle rarely discussed is energy management. Success is not simply about managing time. It is about managing physical, emotional, and mental energy. Two people may possess the same 24 hours each day, yet one accomplishes dramatically more because they protect their energy, they prioritize sleep, they nourish their bodies, they exercise regularly. They schedule demanding work during periods of peak concentration. They recognize that exhaustion weakens judgment, creativity, and emotional control. A tired mind exaggerates problems. A rested mind discovers solutions. Protecting your energy is not laziness. It is intelligent preparation for sustained excellence. High achievers also celebrate progress without becoming satisfied by it. They pause occasionally to recognize how far they have come. This strengthens confidence and gratitude, but they never allow previous victories to become excuses for future complacency. Yesterday's success cannot complete today's work. Every sunrise presents another opportunity to improve. Every day asks the same question: will you become slightly better than you were yesterday? The answer to that question determines the direction of your future far more than any single dramatic event ever could. The psychology of high achievers is built one decision at a time, one disciplined action at a time, one courageous choice at a time. No one suddenly wakes up possessing extraordinary mental strength. It is developed through repeated practice. Every difficult conversation builds confidence. Every promise kept strengthens self-respect. Every obstacle overcome increases resilience. Every hour invested in learning expands possibility. Every disciplined choice quietly reshapes identity until excellence no longer feels like something you occasionally achieve, but becomes the standard by which you live each day. And once that transformation begins, people around you often assume your success happened because of luck or natural ability, never realizing they are only seeing the visible results of thousands of invisible psychological victories that were won long before anyone else noticed the change.